Imagine you're standing at the edge of a field in the American Midwest. In front of you is a 20-ton piece of heavy iron, a tractor hitched to a massive chisel plow. You've just driven this machine into position, but instead of settling in for an 18-hour shift, you step out of the cab. You walk back to your pickup, pull out your phone, and perform a gesture that feels more like playing a mobile game than managing a multi-million-dollar operation. You swipe to farm. The engine revs, the lights flash, and the massive machine begins to move on its own. This isn't a tech demo or a CGI concept video. This is happening on real farms right now. While the world has been busy debating self-driving cars, the agricultural industry has quietly entered its own sci-fi era. This tractor will work all day, and all night if it has to, plowing with sub-inch accuracy, while the human who owns it is back at the shop, miles away, working on something else. Today, we're going inside the technology that is transforming the world's most essential industry. We're moving from the blacksmith's forge of the 1830s to the deep neural networks of 2026. This is the story of how the tractor became one giant robot, and why the future of food is now being written in code as much as it is in soil. To understand how a machine can swipe to farm today, you have to go back to 1837. That was the year a blacksmith named John Deere moved from Vermont to Illinois, founding a company that would define the mechanical age of farming. For over 150 years, that company was about steel, engines, and raw horsepower. But in the mid-1990s, the mission changed. The shift toward autonomy didn't happen overnight. It was a 3-decade slow build. It started with the birth of GPS. John Deere began combining satellite location data with sensors on harvesting combines to measure crop yields. But there was a major problem. Early, uncorrected GPS could be off by as much as 30 feet. In a field, 30 feet is the difference between planting a row and driving through a fence. This is where the story takes a surprising turn into space. John Deere needed precision, and they found it through a partnership with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory scientists at JPL had developed a way to stream satellite tracking data in real time via the internet. By licensing NASA's global network of ground stations and software, John Deere was able to correct those GPS signals. By 2003, they had a system accurate down to about an inch. For the last 20 years, farmers have used this foundation for auto steer, where the tractor handles the steering while the operator sits in the seat to monitor the work. John Deere's CTO, Jami Hindman, explicitly ties this digital evolution back to that 1837 blacksmith origin story, a journey from the forge to the robot. Since the early 2000s, manufacturers have been layering building blocks, turn automation, mapping software, and machine-to-machine data sharing. By 2026, those blocks have finally reached the top floor, full autonomy. So what does that top floor actually look like from the driver's seat? Let's pop the hood. If you're a technician who has spent 30 years turning wrenches on these machines, you know that a tractor is a high-pressure, high-heat environment. Adding eyes and a brain to that environment is a massive engineering hurdle. The current 2026 standard autonomous platform, specifically seen in the John Deere 8R, is essentially a massive perimeter vision suite. The machine uses 6 pairs of stereo cameras that create what engineers call a safety bubble, extending about 10 meters around the vehicle. These aren't just webcams. They capture 4 channels of data: RGB for color and D for depth. Every single frame, roughly 3 per second, passes through a deep neural network. This brain has roughly 10 million parameters and runs on an NVIDIA Jetson Xavier GPU located right on the tractor, essentially an onboard computer built to crunch video in real time. In about 100 milliseconds, the AI classifies every pixel in that image into one of 5 categories: ground, sky, trees, large objects like animals or vehicles, or the implement, the plow or disc attached to the back. If the AI sees an unknown object in that safety bubble, it doesn't just slow down, it stops. The braking is handled by an electric over hydraulic system. If the machine stops, it sends a live video feed to the farmer's phone. The farmer then makes a business decision. Is it a false positive, like a blowing cornstalk or a tall weed? Or is there a real obstacle they need to physically move? Accuracy is maintained through geofencing. The tractor continuously checks its position against a digital map of the field, holding its line within less than an inch. But here is the detail that matters most for fleet owners. This isn't just about buying a brand new $600,000 machine. The industry is moving toward precision upgrades or retrofit kits. Deere's autonomy camera kit can be retrofitted onto 8R and 8RX tractors as old as model year 2020. This means that the sci-fi transition isn't just for the largest corporate farms. It's being built to scale across existing fleets. And Deere isn't the only company racing to get there. While John Deere is a major driver of this story, 2026 has proven that autonomy is an industry-wide race, not a one-company gimmick. At the 2026 Commodity Classic, AGCO showcased its Fendt 1000 Vario equipped with a system called Outrun. What's genuinely interesting here is that the walls between competitors are starting to dissolve. The Outrun retrofit kit, which converts existing tractors into autonomous machines for grain cart operations, was actually built to be compatible with John Deere hardware. It's a brand-agnostic approach to technology, meaning the software might be AGCO, but the iron it's driving is Deere. Then there is Kubota. While the giants are focused on massive row crop fields of corn and soy, Kubota is targeting specialty crops. At CES 2026, they unveiled an autonomous solution built into their M5 narrow tractor, specifically designed for the tight spaces of vineyards and orchards. They've even introduced digital twinning, where they use AI to track every single plant bud and oversee the entire operation in a persistent real-time simulation. And then you have the startups. Spanish startup Voltrac is currently field testing a fully electric autonomous tractor called Thor. It uses individual wheel motors and runs on swappable 200 kWh battery packs that can last up to 20 hours. Because it's electric, it has 70% fewer moving parts than a conventional tractor, which could drastically reduce maintenance for farmers. As of 2026, more than $500 million in fresh capital is tied directly to these autonomous startups and AI tillage technology. The shift is clear. The industry has moved from software apps to heavy hardware that can actually move dirt without a human in the cab. But heavy machines that can move dirt without anyone in the cab also means something else. Fewer hands are needed in the field. And that's where this story stops being about engineering and starts being about people. With all this sci-fi tech, we have to talk about the tension on the ground. This isn't just about cool robots. It's about a massive demographic crisis in farming. The global population is expected to hit 10 billion by 2050, requiring a 60–70% increase in food productivity on the same amount of land. But there is a more immediate problem. There are simply no people left to drive the tractors. The average American farmer is 55 years old. With 80% of the US population now living in urban areas, farmers like Will Brigham in Vermont see automation as the only solution to a massive workforce shortage. They are competing for workers with indoor jobs that don't have to deal with the weather. But there is an honest counterweight to this story. Eric Nicholson, who works with farm worker nonprofits, reports that workers are deeply concerned about losing their livelihoods to automation. There are also significant safety worries. Worker safety advocates argue that sensors meant to prevent collisions could be obscured by glare, dust, or harsh field conditions, the very things that define a farm. This has become a real regulatory fight. In California, Cal-OSHA has been actively studying whether to allow autonomous vehicles to operate alongside human laborers in the fields. On one side, you have the wine industry and corporate farming pushing for adoption. On the other, you have advocates warning that the technology isn't uncomplicated yet. Even some small farmers are skeptical. They wonder if a robot can actually do the job as well as a skilled human, especially when it comes to delicate or oddly shaped crops like citrus or blackberries. While corn and soybeans are easy to automate, the finer points of farming still seem to require a human touch. We are living through a transition that the blacksmith John Deere probably couldn't have imagined in 1837. We've gone from the hand plow to the engine, and now from the engine to the pixel. The autonomous tractor isn't just a tool, it's a partner in progress. It addresses the brutal reality of an aging workforce and a growing world, but it also forces us to ask hard questions about what happens to the people who have traditionally worked the soil, whether you see it as a solution to a labour crisis or a threat to a way of life. One thing is certain: the dawn of farming has arrived. The machines are thinking, they are seeing, and they are moving, with or without us in the seat. So is this the future farming needs, or a shortcut we'll end up regretting? That's genuinely up for debate, and we want to hear where you land. Thanks for sticking with us through this one. If you enjoyed digging into the tech behind the tractor, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. It helps this channel keep making videos like it. And if there's a piece of tech, a mystery, or a machine out there you think we should investigate next, drop it in the comments. We read everyone, and some of our best episodes started right there. We'll see you in the next investigation.